Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and today we're going to be talking about Alien 5, Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5, and the fact that it probably won't ever happen, and in my thoughts on that. So, if you guys don't remember the story surrounding Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5, this actually happened in 2015, right around the time Neill Blomkamp was getting ready to release Chappie. Now, Chappie is, for all intents and purposes, not a good movie. It is an okay film, but the D. Antwoord being the two main characters, they were just completely without personality, and just it really just kind of dragged the film down. However, Sigorney Weaver and Hugh Jackman and Dev Patel were all great. And also Charlotte Copley, if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, as Chappie was also great. But the core people in the movie were just not good characters and not good actors. So I think that dragged it down. You may think differently, but that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm a big Neill Blomkamp fan, so I was really disappointed with Chappie. But that being said, during the pre-release, hype, while they were trying to get the film on the forefront of everyone's minds in order to make it a hit, one little nugget of information popped up, and that was, while they were shooting the movie, Neill Blomkamp had talked to Sigorney Weaver and pitched her an idea for basically Alien 5, and she was on board with it. Hell, even James Cameron gave them the thumbs up about this particular story, and you heard talks from Fox, right, that they were getting ready to fast track it, that they were going to start pushing it into production. And at the time, I thought to myself, wait a minute here, hold on. The fact that Alien 5 rumors are getting more and more traction and being more talked about than Chappie itself says to me that this movie probably isn't going to be as good as we want it to be, because it's completely overshadowing all of the pre-release hype. Now, Chappie came out and did not do very well. And that is precisely why I think Fox was not, very on board with wanting to pursue Alien 5 with Blomkamp as the director. That being said, just 3 years earlier, you had Prometheus come on out, and we all kind of thought that was the end of the prequel stuff. Alien Covenant wasn't even a discussion yet. It wasn't anything that was being talked about, let alone coming out in just a matter of weeks. So when this whole thing started coming up and we start talking about Alien Covenant, we're asking ourselves, well, what about Neill Blomkamp's Alien 5? What about the fact that Sigourney Weaver was on board and Cameron gave his blessing and Fox was talking about it? What happened? Well, here's what Ridley Scott has to say. He says, "I don't think it will ever see the light of day. There was never a script, just an idea that evolved from a dozen or so pages. I had to participate as producer, but it didn't go further because Fox decided it didn't want to do it. As far as I was concerned, I'd already done Prometheus and I was working on Covenant." Now, just listen to what he had to say. Look at what he says. For one, I don't ever think it will see the light of day, which means he has no faith in it. All right, just an idea that evolved from a couple of pages doesn't mean shit. In Hollywood, someone can bang out a draft over a weekend if they're so inclined. So if they had an idea based on a couple of pages, I'm pretty sure an early draft of the script would have already been in the works. Probably Neill Blomkamp already has it written and it's sitting on his hard drive somewhere, waiting for the green light from Fox. Now then he says, I had to participate as producer, but it didn't go further because Fox decided it didn't want to do it. And now, is that Fox or is that Ridley Scott? That is a very big question right there. Ridley Scott then goes on to say, I'd already done Prometheus and I was working on Covenant. The thing is, at the time, if I recall correctly, and I could be wrong, no one gave a shit about a sequel to Prometheus, right? No one cared. No one cared at all. Prometheus came and it went. And while it's a serviceable film, while it's an interesting enough movie, fans of the franchise didn't want there to be a continuation of that story. No one was beating on the door and asking for it because it was so far of a departure from what made the original movie fantastic that ultimately it just was nothing that anyone was asking for. But people were asking, the hype machine was building for Alien 5 directed by Neill Blomkamp, and of course finishing off the Ripley story, effectively treating it like either Alien Resurrection or Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection never happened, right? Coming in after the events of Aliens and splitting off into a new direction, giving her a proper send-off, not jumping into a pit of fucking melted metal and not crash landing on Earth with an android Winona Ryder. You know, like, people were ready for it to become like the Superman Returns of the Alien franchise. They were on board with that. But I think Ridley Scott killed it. I think he did. And the reason why I say that is because looking at how he's been talking about Alien Covenant and how he is currently trying to treat the Alien franchise, you know that he is desperately holding on to this. He wants this thing to be a success, so then Fox will greenlight him doing more of them. Probably because right now, these are the only movies he has made that are even remotely looking to turn a profit. Ridley Scott is a fantastic director, don't get me wrong, but his movies have been very hit or miss over the course of the past couple of years. Look at, you know, what was it? Robin Hood. Okay, like, yeah, good movie, but it wasn't really about Robin Hood. It was Robin Hood Origins. You know, you had the Kingdom of Heaven, which did not do well in theaters, but they had the awesome home video cut. There was an Exodus, right? Gods and Kings, that came under fire because it had white people in the role of the Egyptians and shit. And, you know, like, that, again, wasn't a very good movie. The Counselor, Jesus fucking Christ, The Counselor. You know, so he's done a lot of these movies that are well made. Don't get me wrong, but they're not, you know, they're not going to be charging up the fan base. But Alien, an Alien that is done correctly, would be a good way to ease back into that sort of thing. And that's what he's doing with Alien Covenant. See, Covenant is technically the third film in the Prometheus trilogy, right? Or the middle film in a new trilogy. Or the first film in a final trilogy. I don't even know anymore. So when I read this line about Ridley Scott and you know, Alien 5 and Neill Blomkamp, and I get it. Ridley Scott is the father of the Alien franchise. I absolutely get it. And at no point am I faulting him for making this his once again in a way that, you know, cannot be fucked with by any other people. You know, because when Alien 3 went over to David Fincher, and Fincher hated the studio meddling, and then we got Alien Resurrection based on a script by Joss Whedon, and that was just what the fuck. And then we get Alien v Predator, which Paul W.S. Anderson, like, pretty much just made as bloodless as humanly possible, and the editing was horrific. I still like the movie, but I have problems with it. Then we got AVP Requiem, which I actually happen to really like, but not a lot of people did. The franchise has been all over the place, but people have been asking for a standard horror, to go back to when the tagline was, "In space, no one can hear you scream." Like, they want that kind of alien isolation experience, the video game from 2014 that was well made. But I look at him as basically cock-blocking Neill Blomkamp at this point and keeping him from making this movie. And you know what? He's got the right to do it as a producer. But at the same time, if Sigourney Weaver's on board, if Michael Bihn's on board, Cameron has given his blessing, and there's an idea there to give Ripley a proper send-off, I say fucking do it. And I think a lot of that has to do with how Covenant fares. If Covenant does well, Ridley Scott will be able to use that clout to maintain his control over the franchise. If the movie doesn't do well and tanks in the box office, or just doesn't live up to expectations, then we probably won't get Alien Awakening in a few years. And Alien will go back into the fucking drawing board, or back into the tomb of Fox properties, maybe until Ridley Scott passes away and they can finally be free to do with it as they will. Now, that's a very morbid way of looking at it, but the dude's like in his 70s, and as much as I love Ridley Scott, he won't be around forever. So Fox, you know, Fox wants to make money, clearly, and everything, but there are probably going to be elements at work here behind the scenes. I don't know what Neill Blomkamp can do to get himself in a position to make this movie. And well, there's one thing Neill Blomkamp can do. He can make a movie that's actually commercially successful. District 9, great film. Elysium, great premise, not the best execution, still a movie I enjoyed overall. Chappie, good idea. It's well made, but the lead characters are wholly unlikable. But the villains were good. And they were well acted. So there were good things about it. But there were also bad things. He needs to get a win. And an Alien movie would have, I think, given him that win. Especially with Sigourney Weaver being on board and also wanting to cross-promote and all that shit. But Ridley Scott, in my opinion, came in at the very end and just basically made it all about him. And that's his deal. That's his prerogative, and that's totally fine. I just hope we actually get to see this movie, because based on what I know about it, I don't care if it's an idea based on a dozen or so pages or not. I want Ripley to get a proper send-off. I want Michael Biehn to come back. I want James Cameron to be involved. I want us to go back to the world of Aliens and not through Gearbox's crappy-ass game from 2013. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. Again, if you guys like the video, toss it a thumbs up. Get your friends in on the conversation. Share this thing around. Alien Covenant's in a couple days. What do you guys think? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And do you want to see Alien 5 from Neill Blomkamp? Do you want to see more from Ripley and less from the Prometheus side of things? Let me know in the comments. Talk to you guys later. Peace out.